Om Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvina Vaditamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om, may the Divine Being look over us lovingly as a mother and father. May the Divine Being support and nourish us as a mother and father. May we have the strength and skill to study together the art of spirituality. May no misunderstandings arise amongst us. Om, peace. Om, peace, peace. Peace be unto us and to all beloved beings everywhere. So please begin, Haima. Thank you.
Sure, Brother Shankara. Good evening, everyone. We are on page 628, if you have the book, and the last paragraph. Swami Parameshwarananda recalled, once the mother was staying with Radhu at Kolpara. I expressed a desire to observe the master's birthday in Jairambati, and the mother approved of this. She gave me 5 rupees for expenses. The celebration was done on a grand scale and many people were fed. Hearing about the celebration later, Holy Mother remarked, as long as I'm alive, it's not necessary to go to excess. Another time in Jairambati, a devotee began to practice spiritual disciplines vigorously. The mother told him, you do not have to practice so many spiritual disciplines here. Eat, relax, and enjoy this place. Similarly, Jesus said, son, be of good cheer. Can the children of the bridal chamber fast while the bridegroom is with them?
Now, this is a very important idea.
Yeah.
That there is an importance in the time that these holy ones are with us. They're never apart from us, but there is something special about the time when they are actually present on the planet. And so this is why Swami Chaitanananda quotes Jesus with regard to what Mother said. There's no need for fasting or other austerities while they're actually alive and with us. So there's just a little bit more, we're invited to a little more when they are not actually with us. Okay, Haima, thank you.
In 1919, Holy Mother's birthday was observed in Jairambati. Swami Saradananda sent a sari and a chadar to her from Calcutta. The mother put on the sari and worshipped the master and then sat on her cot holding Radhu's child on her lap. The monks and the devotees offered flowers at her feet, and she blessed them, saying, I wholeheartedly pray to the master for the welfare of all of you. The monks, devotees, and members of her brothers' families enjoyed the grand feast. Next subheading is traveling. Nowadays, people go to Jairambati easily by car, bus, or train. In her early days, Mother traveled on foot. Later, she used various kinds of transport, such as bullock carts, palanquins, horse carriages, boats, steamers, trains, and automobiles. One can visualize the mother walking 64 miles from Jairambati to Dakshineshwar.
Now let's just
That,
pause. Let's just pause and consider that.
yes,
64 miles.
can't
And she did it more than once, you know, when she was young. She did it more than once. Later, of course, she got rheumatism in her legs and knees, and it became difficult for her to walk such distances. But she would walk, 64 miles. Now that's really a considerable distance.
That's a lot of distance.
Thank you.
Sure. One can visualize the mother walking 64 miles from Jairambati to Dakshineshwar, carrying a small bundle containing clothes, a towel, hard molasses, and some puffed rice in a small cloth bag. She bathed in roadside ponds, lakes, or rivers and drank water from them. She would bring a few rupees to buy food along the way and to pay the ferryman as she crossed the 5 rivers between Jairambati and Dakshineshwar. The meadow of Tello Bello is blessed by Holy Mother's feet. Every human mind is more or less curious. That is the basis of all education. Holy Mother was not a cloistered nun. She loved people and enjoyed visiting holy people and holy places. She went on pilgrimages to both North and South India. While living in Calcutta, she used the horse carriage of Nivedita school on holidays to visit the museum, the zoo, the hog market, and the park, and she went to the botanical garden in Shibor. Shipur. She got down from her carriage and saw these places of interest with great enthusiasm. Next, somewhere in this,
Let's just pause and let our minds rest on the mother of the universe, Jagadamba Saraswati, riding in horse carriages, seeing these various places, enjoying them with great enthusiasm. This is her special gift, of course, was to come as Saraswati, which is introducing all of these wonders that have occurred in so many fields since her presence on earth. But this is the introduction of these improvements in life that will be part of the dawn of the golden age of the Satya. The dying away of the Kali Yuga is bringing all kinds of misery and sickness and exploitation of the planet. Over the next, and Swami Vivekananda hinted at 1500 years. Over the next 1500 years, from the time that he and Mother, and for that matter, the Master, were alive, these changes the darkness will fade, the light of the golden age, the Satyu, will brighten, and all of these wonders will flower. So this is the great gift that the Mother brought. And of course, we've seen the improvements in so many things that make life more bearable and enjoyable for us since Mother came. Of course, this is all part of Mahamaya. It isn't the deep reality, but it is her sport, her play, her Leela. And we see it before our very eyes. This technology that we're using now to gather together this evening. It was inconceivable just 50 years ago. The most, the most thoughtful minds didn't, those are the writers of science fiction and so on. They saw glimpses and glimmers of such things. Anyway, I just thought that it deserved a remark on the Mother of the Universe actually being among us and enjoying all these things and bringing her special energy to those things. If we look at the places that she visited, they very much parallel the aspects of Saraswati. Thank you, Haima. Please.
Joy and sorrow. Happiness and misery rotate in a cyclic order. Yes. No human being is always happy or always miserable. It seems that God offers the results of people's karma on an installment basis by giving suffering and happiness alternately. Every human being laments when a loved one dies. When the master passed away, Holy Mother cried out saying, "Mother, O Kali, what have I done that you have departed, leaving me alone in the world?" However, she accepted death as inevitable for every human being. No one can alter the degree of providence. Like other mortal beings, she cried when those closest to her died. Her mother, her uncle, Yogananda, and Premananda.
Oh, yes, she very much, when those two monks, those two special boys for her, she did indeed weep. They meant so much to her, and she meant so much to them. So, yes, indeed. Thank you, Haima.
She lamented the passing of Nivedita, Swami Vivekananda, Swami Ramakrishnananda, and her close relatives. She had an affectionate and motherly heart, and she cried for suffering humanity. However, Holy Mother said that the Master had placed a picture of bliss in her heart when she was at Dakshineshwar. She might have been tossed by the pairs of opposites, happiness and misery, like other human beings, but a current of bliss always flowed within her. Sometimes she was humorous and laughed heartily. Humor absorbs the shocks of life, eases tense situations and family friction, and brings a smile to gloomy faces.
And we can, if we look back at things we've read in the book that we've heard Haima read to us, we see the mother using humor to turn an ugly situation into one where everyone ended up laughing and smiling. What a gift, huh? Okay, dear, thank you.
Once in Jairampati, Surabala, who was mentally unbalanced, wanted to play cards. She asked Holy Mother to play with her. Holy Mother and Ashu took one side and Surabala and Nalini the other side. Holy Mother and Ashu won 6 times. Surabala became upset, threw down the cards and blurted out, "Sister-in-law, you will always win and we shall always lose. I won't play anymore." Holy Mother replied, "We are sattvic and follow the spiritual path, so we must win."
There's humor for you. All right.
Surabala made a sound of disgust and left. The mother laughed. Once the mother was suffering from malaria,
Hang
and
on
the
just a moment.
sure,
Hang on
sure.
just a moment.
That was funny.
Here's what mother meant. We are sattvic, therefore we see more clearly. Sattva is the revealing power. So mother wasn't just making a joke. She was telling a great truth. You always win. Huh? So Holy Mother replied, we are sattvic and follow the spiritual path. So we must win. It isn't as if it's magic. No. When you do spiritual disciplines and learn to control your mind, there are practical, that is, daily worldly life aspects of this. An increase in concentration, an increase in clarity, makes things easier for you. As Sri Krishna says in the Gita, you become more efficient. So mother wasn't just turning a phrase here. She was telling a profound truth. And of course, Surabala, being mentally unbalanced, poor dear, was not able to deal with this and not able to do those things that lead to sattva and inner peace and clarity. But so the mother tried to ease the situation with a little humor, but there was a deep truth contained in it. Any comments or questions on that particular point of the practical benefits, that is to say, the daily worldly life benefits? It's in karma. It's in this section on karma yoga that Krishna mentions this. The fact that as you practice karma yoga and meditation, you become more efficient. Anything at all from anyone about that particular aspect?
Brother Shankara,
Yes, dear.
namaste. I wanted to comment that though you do win, if you are sattvic, though you have peace of mind, but that does not alleviate your suffering. She suffered a lot.
Oh no, it isn't. It doesn't. It doesn't. There's no relationship whatsoever between the suffering, which is was pointed out earlier by Chaitananda. It comes and goes in cycles, and and he even kind of turned to humorous phrases saying Providence deals it out to us on the installment plan, so that we don't get overwhelmed all at once. So yes, the fact that you're more sattvic will allow you to deal with suffering, and for that matter, joy, more auspiciously. But it won't spare you those things. You're absolutely right about that, Krishna Kali. They won't spare you those things. You'll simply deal with them more auspiciously if you are doing your spiritual disciplines.
What is the role of suffering in spiritual? I know a rough answer I wanted from you. What is the role of suffering in spiritual growth? Is it just random?
No,
Or is it
there's no such thing as random, dear. There's no such thing as random, not in the world of time, space, and causation. And on the quantum level, there may be this capriciousness and randomness. But in the Newtonian world of time, space, and causation, there's no randomness. So what is the role of suffering? We do not learn from happiness. We may become more pious, as it says in the Chandi, to those in happiness, Mother gives a mind even further pious. But piety is not the same as spiritual depth. So we gain little in terms of our spiritual life from our periods of happiness. Of course, if it was continuous suffering, we wouldn't be able to bear it. And we see those people who suffer from severe mental illness and so on. Life is very difficult for them. But for the rest of us, the purpose of suffering, as Mother said, you will come to understand that all suffering is a blessing because it causes you to turn your attention to that which will allow you to escape entirely, finally, and completely from this world of time, space, and causation of Maya. One time, well, just a little preface, Swami Prabhavananda was dear friends with Christopher Isherwood. Christopher Isherwood was an Englishman. Though he had immigrated to the United States, he was an Englishman, and he was very involved in the world of book writing and the world of entertainment. And he often, his English friends would come to visit him. And occasionally, if he thought it was auspicious, he would bring one of them to meet Swami Prabhavananda. And he would usually do that by bringing them to a Sunday lecture with the understanding that they would join the Swami for lunch afterwards. If I ever knew the name of the person that Isherwood brought this particular time, I don't recall it now. But it was one of his English friends who was in Hollywood on a visit. And he brought him to the lecture, and he listened to the lecture and then went to the lunch with the Swami. And the Swami, just in conversation, asked this fellow, "What did you think of the talk?" And the man said, "Well, Swami, if I'm to be honest, it sounds to me like escapism." And the Swami thought about that for a moment or two, and he said, "Well, that may be true, but I cannot for the life of me think why I would not want to escape." So what Swami was pointing to is that suffering, the suffering of life, and there was plenty of suffering in Swami Prabhavananda's life, it is the suffering of life that is part of our waking up process. When we begin to say, there must be some way out of here, as Bob Dylan's song says. There must be some way out of here, said the joker to the thief. I can't get no relief. So that's the answer as it's understood from here, Krishna Kali.
Thank you so much.
Anything else from anyone?
Can I make a comment, Brother Shankara?
Of course, Haima.
Personal experiences, suffering purifies our heart slowly as we encounter adversities, more suffering, and it purifies the heart, and you become a better person if you really look at it. Or after some time, then you realize, God, I'm much better because of this. Today I'm a better person because of all those sufferings.
Yes, as Swami Swahananda was very fond of saying, the only true measure of spiritual progress is change in behavior.
Exactly.
And it will most often be contemplation of some suffering that causes us, as you say, to purify the heart, purify the heart, purify the thoughts, purify the thoughts, purify the speech, and purify the action. And so we then gain in that regard. But
Yes.
the purification process is one that is quite natural to us uh, if we allow it to happen.
Yes.
If, if we if we don't insist on our old habits and attachments and aversions when something happens that brings them into question.
Yes, it
Thank you.
improves. It improves the equanimity. It gets closer to equanimity and forbearance. All these things later on they come in your way, and then every time you suffer, there is an angel to catch you. That's how. That's how I look at it. Every time I'm thrown from the top of the mountain, there is someone at the bottom of the mountain catching me. So, and you see the light. You see the light, and there is some truthful meaning.
In that regard, I recommend to all of you to go on YouTube and listen to the song Seven Spanish Angels.
Oh, really?
Seven Spanish Angels.
Yeah,
It's a beautiful song.
Okay, definitely I will. Thank you. Yeah.
There's a version, I believe, by Ray Charles and maybe Willie Nelson. I think that's the two, Ray Charles and Willie Nelson. That is really quite remarkable.
That's wonderful. Thank you.
Anything else from anyone? That song is about exactly what you were talking about.
Really, I would
The
love to.
fact that when we fall, that there are angels there to catch us.
They catch us. Yes, I experienced in my life. Personal experience tells me there's always an angel catching me. Thank you, Brother Shankara.
Brother Shankara, are good people disproportionately suffer more? Good people suffer more, I see, in the world, more than the people that are going about flouting all kind of religious laws, spiritual laws.
Dear heart, this is one of those paradoxical situations that it does seem to us that good people are suffering more. Perhaps that's because they're more open about their suffering. They're more vulnerable and more straightforward. The asuras of this world, the asuras and the daityas, the people of demonic nature, they suffer terribly, constantly, because they always feel like they don't have enough and they are deprived. And so they're always grasping for more and more and more and more. And so their suffering may be of a different character. And certainly because of their natures, they're not open about it, generally speaking. But it's there. It's there. And Sri Ramakrishna said that all of these paradoxes and somebody's got their mic open, deep dilemmas, all of these things resolve themselves when you come into the neighborhood of God. By this he means when you are nearing what we call savikalpa samadhi, when you are deeper and deeper in the great silence, then something speaks to you from that silence that that makes these questions, in a sense, moot, because you see the power beyond it. And within Maya, there is going to be these seeming contradictions. There's no two ways about it. Anything else from anyone?
That was beautiful. That was beautiful, Brother Shankara. I always wanted this answer. You really encompassed it completely. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, dear.
Hi.
Remember the story about who spoke. Yes, please, Shailesh.
I would like to add, share my thoughts about what Krishna Kaliji asked. I've been talking to my friends who, who practice spirituality, and some of them are monks, and some of them are just family people like me, but they practice very sincerely for years.
Don't just say just family people like you. Remember what the master said, Shailesh. The householder that is leading a spiritual life is the true hero, because they're fighting the battle of spirituality with a sword in their right hand, and the battle of life with a sword in their left, and they have no hand left to hold a shield. So please don't minimize the householder way of life.
But so what I've seen is, what I understand is that as we spiritually evolve, we have to exhaust the karma also as we go up and up. And the residual karma, which is the what is that residual karma, so that has to be exhausted as we grow up and up. I'm not talking about liberation, but as we go from lower truth to higher truth, that karma has to be exhausted, and we have to experience that. And another sub part of that, I would say, is that the reason why it comes to us is that we have the capacity to forbear because of our guru mantra or spiritual practice. At least about our tradition, I can say that the guru mantra can significantly reduce that karma, but you still have to experience some, and that's how that big chunk goes away. And that this is my observation for last 20-30 years, is that it comes to you but significantly reduced, and then you still have to experience that smaller part of it. And that's one part I have seen. And second, and then so I think it's with everyone, is that good people or spiritually practicing people, people who are evolved, they have to, it seems like they're suffering more. And another part I have seen is that, that's my own understanding, is that it's a collective karma of our family also. And this is my own opinion from my own experience, that as we grow spiritually, it has to be taken care of by someone. And there are certain spiritual laws, I think, which they need to be satisfied. Like Sri Ramakrishna said, when you liberate, there are 7 generations who will liberate, going backwards. Now you imagine that if you are in one of those births that you may liberate, I mean, who is going to take care of that karma of the 7 people, 7 generations? Someone has to. And so that has to be taken care of by you or someone in your family who is going to be. So this is my own experience. So I'm sharing that it's two well, it's our own collective karma, and also the family karma we have to face as we grow spiritually.
Very nicely said, Shailesh. Of course, Adi Shankaracharya remarked that even the liberated, even those who have become fully illumined, if they remain embodied, their prarabdha karma will come to them. The karma that brought them into embodiment, even though it's the last time, that karma will come to them. And as you remarked, spiritual practice does indeed reduce our karmic debt. Holy Mother was very clear about this. A disciple asked her, well, Mother, if I take refuge in the Master, will my karma be wiped out? And Mother said, no, but if your karma indicated that you should lose a leg, you won't lose the leg. And the disciple said, but you mean nothing will happen? And the mother said, no, you will receive a scratch. So the karmic debt is, this is exactly what Chaitanya is pointing to when he says that chant the name of the Lord and his glory. You mentioned Guru Mantra. Chant the name of the Lord and his glory unceasingly, that the mirror of the heart may be wiped clean, and quenched that mighty forest fire, worldly lust, raging furiously within. Now, that raging forest fire of worldly lust is made of karma. It is action. So if that is quenched, then that karma is, at the very least, greatly lessened, if not totally extinguished. So these are great mysteries. Any of you who wish to understand this in greater detail, Swami Abhedananda, one of Sri Ramakrishna's direct disciples, delivered some lectures at the University of California at Berkeley. I think there were 4 lectures, and the date was sometime in the early 19-teens, 1914, 1915, something like that. And they were pulled together and published as a book called The Doctrine of Karma. And Swami Swahananda, the Swami who sent me here, the head of the Vedanta Society of Southern California for all those decades, he felt that this was the most definitive exposition of the doctrine of karma. And he often gave that book, which is just a small book. It's only about 3/8 of an inch thick. But it's very potent. And he would give that book to some of his disciples who were thinking, they were looking at the conundrum of karma. Anything else from anyone?
Brother Shankara?
Yes, I am.
Okay. I'm going to try my best to convey what is in my mind. Firstly, I'm reminded of that story from Buddha's life where this lady lost her son and then she went to Buddha to ask him to revive the son. And Buddha told her, well, go to every house in that village, and if you find one family in whom there has been no death, then come back to me. And of course, when she goes, she finds that everybody has had a death in the family. So she comes back and becomes Buddha's disciple. Likewise, I think we mentioned here that suffering comes to everybody. It's not, I'm not, it's like how it is perceived. Sometimes I feel, again, just talking about me, if somebody else is going through something, I suffer or feel more than the person who is actually going through it. They seem to have the resiliency. I've seen this in my patients and friends who have had, I mean, really, really difficult challenges, but they have been able to, be resilient and overcome. Whereas others who have smaller challenges fall apart. So maybe it is the sattvic qualities that help the ones who we think that poor people, I mean, good people suffer more, but it may be that their sattvic qualities help them to overcome better.
You're right. That may be very much a part of it. But Sri Ramakrishna said that he spoke of a characteristic of human beings that he called grit. And it isn't that he was disparaging those people who didn't have it and elevating those people who did. It's just that as we come into this birth, because of our karma, we have certain attributes. And some people, as you use the word resilient, well, this is a very direct parallel to what the master was talking about when he talked about grit. And he said that those people who had grit weathered the ups and downs of life more easily than those who didn't. And as you pointed out, there are some people that they just don't seem to have that resilience, and even something that seems to us minor may cause them to fall apart. But you started your comments with this statement that you feel this deeply. Sometimes it seems to you more deeply than the person experiencing it. Well, this is a characteristic of the spiritual aspirant, that they will feel the suffering of others. They will be able to enjoy the joys of people who are in a state of joy. They'll be able to enjoy it with them without being envious or jealous of their good fortune or their joy. And they'll be able to experience and be compassionate, empathetic with those who are suffering greatly. Sri Krishna in the Gita says, it is this aspect that of human beings that is very endearing to him. Those who are able to enjoy the joys and suffer the sorrows of others. I think that's in chapter 6 or chapter 7. So it simply speaks to your quality as a spiritual aspirant. And again, it's not a question of bad or good. It's just a question of what is auspicious and what is inauspicious. It's inauspicious to be indifferent and callous toward the suffering of others, and it's inauspicious to be jealous or envious of the joy or the good fortune of others. Thank you, Swayam.
Thank you.
I think the more compassionate you are, the higher you are up the spiritual scale, Prabha, because Ramakrishna once showed his back full of red welts because somebody was mowing the lawn and the grass being cut. If somebody can remind me of that incident, the grass being cut was hurting him as much, and his back was red with burn sensation from the grass being cut. So the more empathy, that means your spirit is that much clearer, that much purer, I rather meant to say. And the second thing is grit, to be called titiksha. Is that name titiksha? Forbear that Ramakrishna used to say?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, there are two instances in which the master manifested physical evidence on his body, of the suffering of the grass in the case of as Krishna Kali pointed out, and also one time he was standing on the bank of the Ganges, and he was watching some people on a boat, and one of the people on the boat was beating the other person on the back, and the marks of that beating appeared on the master's back, and so this is that intense empathy that only someone of his it goes beyond empathy in our ordinary understanding. It's a feeling of identity with the grass, identity with the person being beaten on the boat. It's like Holy Mother saying, in Jairambati, there was a cat that lived in the mother's household. And one time the cat was mischievous, and the brahmachari, that was one of the brahmacharis that was helping to take care of her, grabbed the cat by the scruff of the neck and was going to give the cat a whack. And mother said, "Don't beat that cat. I am in that cat." And another time, I think it was Surabala. It was either Surabala or Radu. They'd been sweeping, and they came back in the house and just threw the broom in the closet. And mother felt the insult, so to speak, to the broom, and remonstrated with her niece or whoever it was that had done it, saying, no, you should treat that broom with respect. Well, these people, mother, the master, and others at that level, are completely aware that everything is consciousness. Consciousness is primary and is not plural. That's a reality for them. This is why what these people do that seems miraculous is not really miraculous at all. They are fully in possession of their knowledge of the fact that everything is consciousness. And because of that, their omnipotence, omniscience, and omnipotence, and omnipresence allows them to simply do things that are beyond us because we don't have that knowledge, that presence.
Brother Shankara, what was the name of the book that Swami Abhedananda wrote on Karma Yoga?
It wasn't on Karma Yoga. It was on the Doctrine of Karma, what karma is. And it's called the Doctrine of Karma. And it's, I believe, 4 lectures that he gave at the University of California at Berkeley, collected together and edited into one book. The Doctrine of Karma.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm. Anything else from anyone? Okay, we've got some time left.
Sure, Brother Shankara. Once the mother was suffering from malaria and the doctor prescribed sago for her diet. After drinking the tasteless sago, the mother addressed her disciples, "Hello, it seems you have no devotion for my prasad today." That's hilarious. Another day, the mother was seated on a cot in her brother Prasanna's room with her feet dangling. Prakash Maharaj, a monk, offered flowers at her feet and bowed down. He prayed, "Mother, please don't make me wander around anymore in my spiritual journey." She replied, "My son, all these years you forgot me and moved around. Should I not now make you wander a little?"
Oh, Mother Srina.
Swami Gaurishwarananda recalled, once a Swami brought a huge bell fruit from Varanasi to Jairambati for the mother. She kept it under her cot. One day she was cutting vegetables on the veranda of Nalini's room, and I was cutting them along with her. When the vegetables were cut, she asked me to fetch the bell. I had never seen such a huge bell before, and thinking it to be a pumpkin, I went back to say that there was no bell fruit under the cot. The mother said, "I put it there myself. Where would it go? Look carefully." I went back, checked the place, and reported, "No, mother, there's no bell there." Then she asked, "What is there, a pumpkin?" I replied. Then she asked, "What is there?" "A pumpkin," I replied. She laughed and said, "Bring that pumpkin here." As soon as I picked it up, I realized that it was a bell. Seeing me with the bell, the mother laughed heartily. So
These little incidents in these lives, they're so telling.
Once in Udbodhan house, Nalini said to Holy Mother, please set my mind right. I have no peace of mind. I don't want to live anymore. I shall leave everything to you in my will. After my death, you dispose of everything according to your wishes. Holy Mother laughed and asked, where are you going to die? When are you going to die? Then she gravely said, you had better go home quietly. Don't create mischief in this holy place. Then she continued, if your mind does not become free from restlessness, living in the spiritual atmosphere, surrounded by monks and devotees, then what do you want? What a wonderful life you have. You have no trouble or responsibility here. You could have made the best of this life. You do not realize the value of this place now, but you will learn it when I depart. You have a simple mind, and that's why you have no peace. You're leading a lazy life, and you do not do any work. That is the reason your brain is overheated. Can't you think a good thought? Oh, what an impure mind you have.
Please read that again.
Yes.
This, and I'm not going to comment on it. It's very self-evident
Yeah, it
what
is.
she's getting at. When we're unmotivated, when we have no zeal, when nothing makes us want to get up and do in the morning, we're in great peril. So please read this, dear.
Once in Woodburn House, Nalini said to Holy Mother, please set my mind right. I have no peace of mind. I don't want to live anymore. I shall leave everything to you in my will. After my death, you dispose of everything according to your wishes. Holy Mother laughed and asked, where are you going to die? When are you going to die? Then she gravely said, you better go home quietly. Don't create mischief in this holy place. Then she continued, if your mind does not become free from restlessness, living in the spiritual atmosphere, surrounded by monks and devotees, then what do you want? What a wonderful life you have. You have no trouble or responsibility here. You could have made the best of this life. You do not realize the value of this place now, but you will learn it when I depart. You have a sinful mind, and that's why you have no peace. You're leading a lazy life, and you do not do any work. That is the reason your brain is overheated. Can't you think a good thought? Oh, what an impure mind you have. It's very true, Brother Shankara.
Does anyone have anything that they would like to add or any concern they'd like to raise about what the mother just said in response to Nalini's little presentation?
I know many people, Brother Shankara, they have everything but no peace of mind. They just cannot find peace of mind, but that everything is going right for them, but they can't see it, unfortunately. That's exactly, Nalini is like that. Nalini is just resembling those people in this world.
Yes. Swami Swahananda did not like the word lazy. He said, no, it's not laziness. It's lack of motivation, lack of zeal. Find that in your life for which you have zeal, and then pursue it. And then he'd make that lovely gesture. Go forward, go forward. And it didn't have to be something mighty or grand or, just whatever it was that made you want to get up in the morning and do it. Those who have the desire to, practice spiritual disciplines, we are very, very fortunate indeed. And we should recall that Jesus said, "Ye have not chosen me, I have chosen you." So we can have that gratitude in addition. But when life seems empty and we feel like, what am I doing here? Just think, why did I come? What is my prarabdha karma? What is it that brought me into this life? What is it that I really want? And then, as the Swami said, pursue it. And Swami Vivekananda said this also. Pursue it with all your might. Go forward. I said I wasn't going to comment, and then I did. Well, there it is.
That was wonderful to hear. Is lack of zeal called being tamasic?
No, dear. You may be tamasic, but tamasic, we think about the gunas. You know, the gunas come and go. You're tamasic this moment, you're in this mood this moment, you're in another mood the next moment. No, the mother didn't point to that here. She said, you have a simple mind. That is to say, you don't think about things deeply. You don't think about things beyond the superficial. That's how I understand her comment. Can't you think a good thought? So, tamas, the gunas, the gunas produce their effects by touching on all our old mental impressions. Everything that we've brought with us, all our knowledge of name and form that has been gained since the dawn of time. All of those impressions are there, as Vivekananda points out in his talk on evolution. So the gunas touch on these, and they produce this effect and that thought and that mood and so on. But none of it lasts long. No, we may, even the most ennobled person may get into a trough. Life is of a waveform, peaks and troughs, peaks and troughs. I won't go into it just now, but it even happened to Girish Ghosh. And it took Swami Brahmananda coming to him and pointing out, oh dear, you're just in a trough and it will pass. So yes, it's all the creation of the gunas, but this lack of zeal is a lack of attention to what it is that I really want. We get distracted, or we don't want to face what it is that we really want. We may think there's some reason to be ashamed of it, or that it will be that other people will object to it, or we imagine that we can predict the consequences of pursuing it, which is one of the most comical things that people do. We just have no idea what's going to happen next. And when we predict the consequences of things, it's just, it's one of the comical aspects of the human mind. Anything else from anyone?
Yeah, Brother Shankara, what was that one sentence where she said that you will realize it after I am gone? What did Mother mean by that?
Well, she meant Nalini, but all of us, how much we miss Mother being with us. I mean, can you imagine if you could, buy a plane ticket and go see Mother now. In the days when people did go see Mother, of course, there were no plane tickets. There were ship tickets and train tickets. But they did. Or they took a bullock cart out to Jairambati and or saw her in Calcutta. When we think of the fact that, I'll give you an example from the life of Swami Seshananda. Swami Seshananda headed the Portland, Oregon Center for many decades. He was a fierce personality and a great teacher and a great guru, great remover of darkness. When he first came, he was a disciple of Holy Mother, very close disciple of Holy Mother, served her, and so on. When he came to Portland, very early on, one of the people that had become his disciples, one person who had become his disciple, said, Swami, I have this profound question. Will you ask Mother for the answer? And he said, What? What? Ask Mother? Do you know it would take 2 or 3 hours of meditation to be in Mother's presence and ask this question? And he remonstrated with the devotee. But he did it anyway, and he got the answer to the question. Toward the end of his life, this is all in Esther Warkov's book, by the way, The Reminiscences of Swami Seshananda. You can find it online. Just look up Reminiscences of Swami Seshananda. Esther Warkov, one of his disciples, collected these reminiscences. Toward the end of his life, when Swami Seshananda would be asked a similar question, Oh Mother, could you ask Mother for the answer to this question, Swami? He would simply stand there a moment and his eyes would roll back in his head. And a few moments later, he would give the answer. He had become that connected to the Mother. So this is a possibility for each of us to be connected with our Ishtadevata, our teacher, in this way. And of course, it's decades of work. It was decades of work for Swami Seshananda to get from the point of taking 2 or 3 hours to get an answer in meditation, to where he could simply stand there, withdraw himself from the sensory world it was represented by his eyes rolling back in his head, and simply access the answer from Mother. But it's a possibility for each of us. And so it's after 8:30.
Yes, we're at a stopping point too, Brother Shankara.
Yeah, we're at a very
Good
stopping point.
Yes.
So that's where we'll leave it. Is there any final thought or comment or question from anyone?
Brother Shankara, how much of your knowledge is from your guru, Swamiji, and how much from Prabhavananda? How much is it from reading? How much is it from first-hand experience? Where do you get all this knowledge?
Krishna Kali, I can't answer that question here. If you want to see me privately about it sometime, I'll do my best to answer the question. But actually, my vows forbid me from answering that question in the way you've asked it in this setting.
Sorry about that.
It's no. It's nothing to be sorry about, dear. Your question is very sincere, I've no doubt. There's no reason for you to be the least bit sorry about anything. Let me just say that, let me just tell this story once more. In the fall of 1975, maybe it was, perhaps it was even December. In any case, it had to do with Holy Mother's birthday. And on a Sunday morning, the Swami, on his regular Sunday morning talk that he gave, which at that time was just once a month, he was in his 80s and in very poor health. The subject was Holy Mother. Now, on Monday mornings, or every morning for that matter, but the next morning, Monday morning, the Swami took his usual morning walk, and a number of us were with him. And a woman who was known for being tardy and also very effusive in her language, came running up just as the Swami was just about to get back to his room from his walk. And as she came running up behind the group, she began speaking. And she began to say, "Oh, Swami, you spoke so beautifully on Mother yesterday. It was so inspiring," and so on. Now, I'm not mocking her. Everyone loved her, including me, and including the Swami. And I'm not mocking her. This is just who she was. She was habitually late, and she was very effusive. And so the Swami listened to these comments or compliments for 2 or 3 sentences, and then he stopped. And we knew, all of us who knew the Swami, knew, oh, listen up, something's going to happen. He stopped and he tapped down his cane and he said softly, "Who spoke?" The woman said, Amma. He tapped down his cane a bit harder and said, "Who spoke?" Tapped down his cane very hard. By this time, perceptually, the Swami was 10 feet tall. This man who was 5 feet in his shoes, by this time he seemed to be 10 feet tall. Banged down his cane and shouted, "Who spoke?" And finally the woman said, Mother, Swami, Mother." The Swami then shrank down inside his overcoat again, tapped down his cane softly and said, "That's right," and began walking on toward his room. So that's really the answer to your question, Krishna.
We are blessed.
Who spoke? But this is the thing, you see. It isn't just this from here. As has been said many times, this gathering together, there is beneath the surface of this time, space, and causation, there is only one here. There's only one. And that's what it means to study the art of spirituality together. We are one together. The truth can come as it came from many people as they spoke and asked questions this evening. There is one, only one without a second. And it shows up because of Maya. It shows up as these 9 people that are with us still at a little after 8:30 on a Tuesday evening. One, only one. And so that's what the Swami was pointing to when he said, who spoke? The one. And so, yes, Krishna Kali, we are blessed indeed. We are blessed to be part of something that understands this and brings it forward and makes it a reality for us. In this context, the study of Holy Mother's life. Tomorrow evening, we'll study something where it's made very explicit, and that is Swami Vivekananda's talk, The Real and the Apparent Man. So, anything else from anyone?
Pranams, pranams.
Jai, 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 jai. All right, dears.
Thank you, Brother Shankara.
Oma sato ma satkamaya. Tamaso ma jyotirgamaya. Mrityor ma amritangamaya. Abir moiti. Oh, dearly beloved Lord, lead us from the unreal to the real. Lead us from this realm of endless noise and relentless confusion to thine abode of silence, serenity, clarity, and peace. Lead us from darkness to light. Lead us from darkness and ignorance to the brilliance of thy wisdom and love. Lead us from darkness and ignorance to the brilliance of thy wisdom and love. Lead us from death to immortality. Light us through and through. Light us through and through with thy everlasting, shining presence. Jai Shri Guru Maharaj Ki Jai, Durga Durga Durga. May we be safe. May we be healthy. May we be cheerful. May we have peace of mind. May we go forward in the loving and protective embrace of the Divine Being as our Mother and Father. Om Hari Om Tat Sat. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Peace, peace. Peace be unto us and to all beings everywhere. So until we next see one another, what a joy this is always. And good night.
Good night.
Good night.